everybody, Jimmy with the Triple C Collective and
Ed Norton.
And we are ready to bring you our top 5 Batman movies. Today is Batman Day 2024. And so if you saw earlier, Colin and I gave you, top 3 or 3 recommendations for Batman comics. Go check that out. Go check out all of our unboxings that we have for Batman Day up on our YouTube channel. All the links will be in our story on Instagram to get you there. Go check all of those out. But today, we're here to talk about the movies. Now, there are some rules that we set for this. The first rule is that all of the movies had to play in theaters in a wide or limited capacity at the time of their release. We're not talking about like a re-release for a 20, 30 year anniversary, not some like special Fathom events kind of thing or whatever, right? Legitimate theatrical releases. So that's numero uno. The second thing here, to make it at least a little bit more interesting for us, is that if if I have a pick that is number 5 for me, let's say, and Ed has it at a higher number, I will say what my pick is. Ed will say I have it higher, and then we will move on to the next pick. Once we get to where Ed has that pick that I initially said for, my number 5, the lower pick, we will then discuss it where Ed has it at a higher pick. Or if Ed has a pick that is lower and I have it higher, we will talk about it at my higher pick of said movie. Other than that, had to be released in theaters. It's the only other thing we really came to here. And yeah, so without further ado, my guy, Ed. Last time we did this was Why the Last Man. We did 6 episodes. It was wonderful. I'm very excited to have you back. We've been planning a couple of different pods and stuff, and I'm glad we were able to get together for this one. So, my number 5 pick is Batman Begins, with Christian Bale donning the cowl for the first time. And then we've got Christopher Nolan directing, David S. Goyer, Jonathan Nolan coming up with the story, written by Christopher Nolan and stuff. We got Liam Neeson as, actually, let me stop here.
Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, it's Ra's al Ghul.
I'm just going to say it.
But, so that's my number 5 pick. Do you have Batman Begins as your number 5 pick?
I do not.
Okay, you had it higher. All right. Then
how do you even know it was on my list? It is on my list, but yes, I did have it higher. Yes.
Okay, then we'll move on to your number 5 pick then, and when we get to Batman Begins, for you at the higher place, we'll talk about Batman Begins there.
Okay.
What is your number 5 pick?
So my number 5 pick is actually the most recent, the Batman with oh my gosh, the guy, the vampire guy. Robert Pattinson.
I love this movie.
Wow. So, I know we've talked about it in the past, and, where is the Batman for you, first of all?
So, if I'm going to be honest, I have the Batman one step higher at my number 4 pick.
Which is where I have Batman Begins, actually.
So, let's just continue talking about the Batman,
yeah,
and then we'll talk about Batman Begins, because we're already here. Yeah, we got a crisscross.
Okay, so we're going with the Batman. Okay. So the reason for at number 5 for me is... And this isn't because I dislike the movie. It is not my favorite, of course. Yeah. And I know we've talked about it before. Like, there's just bits and pieces of it that I could just do without. Mm-hmm. Number 1,
it is long.
It's long. I think it's a little too long. And it's probably because they could have cut that graveyard scene probably 3/4 of the way down, because that is the longest graveyard I've ever seen in my life. I did love the look of it, and it reminded you of Gotham. But at the same time, I was like, man, they've been driving for a while. Like, they're going to have to fill up by the time they get out. I mean,
there's gas stations.
I mean, those are motorcycles. I don't know what size those gas tanks are, but... so it's like little things like that. And, like, for me, those become big things.
Yeah.
I did like the way that it was shot. I thought it was dark. It was gritty. It looked like Gotham.
Yeah,
definitely for sure. I love the costume design. It was one of the main things. The first time I ever saw Robert Pattinson in the costume, the first thing I said was, "Man, that's a forehead." I literally said that. I was like, "Man, that's a forehead." But when you see it in the actual movie, when you see it full length and not just from still shots and stuff, I think the costume design was almost near perfect. Especially, I mean, we got to mention, of course, the Penguin.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was Colin Farrell.
Yeah. Right. Oh my gosh. How about that makeup? Like, I mean, they even got an Oscar nom for it because it's so good, and rightfully so.
Oh yeah, I had no idea it was Colin Farrell.
Right. He totally just disappears. He's got the new accent going that he gives the Penguin and stuff. Like, Colin Farrell transforms and like, you know, people, I remember like in the like mid 90s to like early 2000s, Colin Farrell, I feel like he did all of these like really odd movies, like isn't he in SWAT?
Isn't he the Recruit, SWAT,
and American Outlaw and stuff, and like he's in all these.
Outlaw.
Yeah, do you remember that?
Let's not get into it.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Anyhow, but like recently, like I've from In Bruges on, I have been team Colin Farrell.
Oh yeah.
Like from then on, because like that movie was just so transformative for me. In a lot of ways. And again, it's one of those things like you just see Colin Farrell just take on this role and just like you just believe him. And he got even with the Penguin, he gets now even his own TV series, which is on HBO Max. Go check that out.
That's what I want to get at though. So like you said, like you see Colin Farrell take on this like new role, this persona. I that's why I think it's so good, is because I don't see that, because I don't see Colin Farrell at all.
Yeah.
I see it completely.
Because he totally disappears into the Penguin.
Yeah, like it's a completely different perspective. It was so good. So when you see people in prosthetics, sometimes you could see it in the eyes, and you can hear it in the voice.
Yeah.
You know if somebody's in prosthetics normally from the voice or possibly the eyes. In no way, shape, or form do you get that's Colin Farrell. For me, at least.
Yeah.
When I hear him speak, and when I look him in the eyes in that movie.
Yeah.
I had no idea, and the closest thing that it does come to me is Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
Like I only knew it was Tom Cruise.
So impressionese.
Like I only knew that was Tom Cruise because they like advertised it as Tom Cruise. I knew Colin Farrell was in the movie.
Right.
But then I completely forgot that the Penguin was in the movie and that Colin Farrell was in the movie. And then I was like, oh my gosh!
And then at the end, after like the 3-hour runtime, you see Colin Farrell's name out there in the Penguin, and you're like, I forgot that was him.
He did such a good job, but I mean, of course, the costume design was phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
So, but that like that's why it has to make the list of top 5 no matter what for me. Now, out of the other 4 that I have, like I said, Batman Begins is my 4. It's definitely it doesn't do it for me like the Batman Begins and the rest of them.
So for me, really the reason of why the Batman is my number 4 and why Batman Begins is my number 5 is because the Batman feels in the production design more real in a real world than Batman Begins does. And so I'll get to my point when I talk about Batman Begins here in a second. I'll explain what I mean by that. And it's really specific about the trains, but I'll get into all of that. So the Batman is just feels so real. And I love, you made the joke about Robert Pattinson, being like the vampire and stuff, and it's all true. Like he absolutely was. He shows up in like Harry Potter and stuff before that, as Cedric Diggory and everything, and so like, for me, like I was in on Arpad's being Batman, of like seeing this new version of him, because since the Twilight stuff, the dude has been making very interesting choices about the directors, the writers, and the behind-the-scenes creative teams that he actually decides to team up with. Like, check him out in Good Time. I believe it's the Sadafi Brothers movie. I think it's Good Time, right? Maybe. But he's in a Sadafi Brothers movie, and oh my god. Unreal.
I liked him in The King.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I really like Timothy King, and I'm also a big fan of Timothy. Is it Timothy Chalamet?
Chalamet, yeah.
Yeah, I really. But I thought he was very interesting in that. But again,
So-
it's not just about Robert Pattinson himself.
And exactly. So then we also get Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, who is just undeniably amazing.
Yeah, I thought
Like,
she was very good.
she like top to bottom just owns that character. I just want to see more of her. I personally thought that they had, and when I say they, Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz, I believed that like star-crossed lover kind of like lovey-dovey feeling that they were kind of. This is a Batman in like year 1.5, starting his year 2, so it's like that early introduction of them before they're like the Bat and the Cat, always going back and forth, tit for tat and stuff. But you really see the like intro of it, and you really see the draw of him, and you also see Bruce being kind of creepy with Catwoman on how he first starts like looking in and like spying on her and stuff. Like that's all kind of creepy.
So that was one of my points of why it was number 5. So it was one of those things that,
That's
like,
fair.
for me, like
totally.
And I know I've discussed it with you before. Like, I don't need Batman to have a love interest right now.
That's fair.
And I understand they didn't really dive into it, but like you said, he's being a little creepy about it. You could see there's the spark. They're trying to show you that it's igniting.
It started.
Yeah,
It's for
it's
sure
starting. And I was just kind of like, I personally need a break from his romances.
That's
you know?
fair. That's
Because
fair.
like we went through so much with the last ones. I mean, and again, they're all different movies and stuff like that. But we went through so much with the last ones, with the Nolans, and even with oh my gosh, Burton's.
Yeah.
I mean, all the different love interests and stuff like that. So I was kind of like, I want to have a rookie Batman.
Yeah.
His main focus is one thing, and I get it. It was one thing, and then they're just sparking it. I would love for them to meet and have their conflicts in the movie. I guess what I'm saying is I didn't need to see the spark. You want to start sparking it, and igniting it in the next movie? Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I kind of just wanted him to be a rookie Batman and just kind of play that like there's no other interest. Like, you could put it as a great detective, like, he's being a little creepy with her, but he's actually getting intel.
But that's also so the other thing that I loved about the Batman is that it's a true detective story.
Yeah,
and one
that
of
is
the
one of the ones I like too. Yes.
And so like that exactly. And we haven't seen Batman look at clues, collect clues, try and work the stuff out before really in the live action movies, because usually there's like already a major villain that he needs to take care of because Gotham is under attack of some kind, and we're like off to the races basically.
Right.
And like I'm not knocking Batman. I freaking love Batman. We're dedicating a whole bunch of pods to the Batman Day.
We know.
So like, but like the detective portion of it was something that was so great and so new that we hadn't really seen. So that was another thing that I really loved. The reimagining of Paul Dano's Riddler is still as like a Zodiac killer kind of esque Riddler is fantastic. Paul Dano, incredible performance. Like there's no denying it. Paul Dano, they even let him write a one-shot like Riddler comic. Wonderful. It's really great too. Like the dude just like got the character. Now, to be fair,
it is hard for Paul Dano not to get a character.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just how good he is.
Paul Dano is one of the top performers, that we've got going right now. So, like, yeah, sign me up for anything that he's in. Like, yeah, even if it's The Girl Next Door.
Dude,
yeah.
I was just thinking of the same thing.
Yeah.
I was like, The Girl Next Door. Love
Klitz, I think his name is. But anyhow, yeah, go check that out. So the Riddler, that I loved Andy Serkis's new version of Alfred. Like, I love that we get a new version of Alfred almost every rendition of the movies, from like, even Batman 66 to the Burton Batmans to, from Burton to Schumacher, we keep the same Alfred. Then Nolan brings in, Michael Caine.
I just think it's kind of funny how with every new Batman we get a younger version of Alfred. It just seems to be getting younger.
Well, it's like Spider-Man and Aunt May.
I was just thinking the same thing. It's like every time they make a new Spider-Man, Aunt May is just younger. So, but you notice that when you could see with this Alfred with Andy Serkis, there's that military presence that he had, because you only get mentions of it from like in the Dark Knight Rises and Dark Knight Rises and stuff like that. You get mentions of his of what he did in his past. But like
Yeah.
Burton and before that, no, you don't hear any of that stuff because
nothing.
they didn't really dive into it. So.
You get a little bit in Batman and Robin because, you know, Batgirl ends up being his, like, niece or whatever.
Oh, yeah, but...
So, like, you get a little bit of his family background that way. But, like, again, it's not like it's the, like, gallivanting adventures and stuff or, like, him being, like, a bare-knuckle brawler or, like, an MI6 operative or anything like that you've seen in some of the, like, newer renditions of Alfred in the comics and whatnot. Specifically, the Andy Serkis kind of thing is kind of pulled from the Batman Year One by Jeff Johns. That kind of gets that like brawler kind of like, feel of him there. So I love that. I loved Andy Serkis. I like it is long. One other thing I did not like is I did not like seeing the Joker in this movie. I am just like so done with the character of the Joker. We get it. He's scary. He's creepy. Joaquin Phoenix has gotten an Oscar from performing the Joker. You know, Heath Ledger got it, you know, after he had passed and everything. You know, we all love Nicholson from Burton and stuff. Like, I don't need it anymore. And that's not to say that Barry Keoghan is bad, because he's good, but I just don't need him in it. I didn't need to see that scene of Barry Keoghan in it. If he shows up in Batman 2, or the Batman 2, that would be fine. At this point, I'd almost expect it. But, like, I don't know. If they just kind of keep him locked up in Arkham, like, that's a choice. And I'm cool with it because we've talked about it before. Maybe I might have even had this conversation with Colin. But now that the can has been opened, so to speak, you know, that Pandora's box is now open with the Joker being there for the Batman and Robert Pattinson and stuff. If the choice is to always keep the Joker locked up, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah, I agree.
And like then maybe have Joker gang things happening outside and he's orchestrating stuff from, like, that's an interesting choice because that is a version of the Joker that is possible that we've never seen before.
Right.
And so, like, again, in a nod of what Matt Reeves and his team has already done for us, like, give us a version. If you're gonna give us the Joker, I can't believe I'm freaking saying this. If you're gonna give us the Joker, give us a new version of the Joker. Like, I did not like Jared Leto's version of the Joker, but to be fair, he did something different. I did not like it. I do not think that works at all as in any way, shape, or form as the Joker. But it is a choice and it is different. Joaquin Phoenix is a little bit of a mix, I think, of like a little bit of what we get with Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger, and then his own little kind of like spin and stuff on it. So, like, again, that's kind of like his own little thing because they really do try and make it just be like the Joker, but I also don't feel like we really need those movies. But The Batman is my number 4. Batman Begins is my number 5. I rewatched this recently, and it still holds up, except for the Gotham City of it all. The Gotham City of it all is actually looks now at this point. Now, to be fair, I messed up when I rewatched Batman Begins. I broke a thing that I try not to do, and I watched it on streaming.
Mm-hmm.
They compress the sound, even if you have a sound bar and stuff. They compress the image and stuff. So that's why I'm a physical media guy. I own these movies, on Blu-ray right now. So I should have popped in the Blu-ray and like done it physically, but I was lazy and I didn't. So for me, for the first time in a long time, that Gotham looked so CGI, especially compared to what we get in the latter movies of The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, of such tactical, real, gritty, brick, mortar,
You're saying it's too clean.
No, I'm saying it looks like bad CGI because they
cover
it all in smoke.
But what I'm saying is that Gotham seems clean. It seems like there's not disarray, basically, in Batman Begins. For me.
Maybe for you.
Because the only times I really see that, Batman...
It's on the train at the end where Liam Neeson and
I think it looks so clean. That's what I'm getting at. The city looks so clean. It doesn't look like it's in disarray.
Yeah.
Okay. So I get where you're coming from on that one. But like the only times you really get that dark, gritty types of Gotham was when he's searching the apartment basically in the rain,
Yeah.
but it's dark and it's raining, so you really don't see it. But you could imagine, sure,
Yeah,
why
yeah,
not? And then basically when they release the gas,
Yeah.
that's when you see the darkness of Gotham. But
Well,
they've been talking about it the whole movie, like
So,
but you're
so,
not seeing.
so like you're right. The inside the apartment at the Narrows looks great. It's a real like actual apartment. Inside Arkham, when they find out that Scarecrow's dumping all the stuff into the water supply and whatnot, like Arkham looks great. The calling of the bats is a little obviously CGI'd and stuff like that, but like that looks good. My problem is that literally you just see a bunch of smoke, and the thing is that when you now, I have no idea what could have caused this at the time of the production in 2004, 20 years ago when they made this movie. Jesus, 20 years. Wow. But so for it, they just put a lot of smoke in dark places to cover up bad CGI looking stuff. And so it was something that I didn't clock on previous watches. The idea of people using smoke and darkness to kind of cover up bad CGI was something that was re-brought up to me recently, and rewatching it on this new one, I was just like, man, I don't like it. Because then, even at the beginning, man, when Christian Bale and Liam Neeson, they're on the frozen, like, that frozen lake or whatever, and he's like, you sacrifice sure footing for a killing stroke, bam, and he knocks him in. Like, dude, that is, you are out there. They are freezing cold. That is on location. That looks so good.
Yeah.
It looks so good. And so, if I'm being honest, Christian Bale looks huge in that because he just did The Machinist before it, and he put on all of those pounds of muscle and stuff.
Seriously,
Liam Neeson,
when
Liam
they
Neeson's
show that
great.
when he wakes up
Mhm.
and starts doing the push-ups and stuff, I was like, what the?
Yeah.
Like the first time you see him without the shirt, you're like, whoa!
One of the single greatest lines is at the end, spoilers, when Wayne Manor gets burned down and Alfred, Michael Caine, shows up, and Bruce Wayne's got the burning log on him or whatever, and he's like, what's the point of doing all those push-ups if you can't move a bloody log? Great. Terrible Michael Caine impression, but whatever.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it though. We're gonna move on from that.
Talk a little bit about Batman Begins now, because I said my piece.
Well, I mean, the reason it's my number 4 is because basically for me, I guess it's more of a personal standpoint of it it reintroduced me back into Batman, basically.
After a really dark spell of I find Batman Forever fun, but Batman and Robin is just bad. And that movie's released in 1998.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I mean.
This movie comes out in 2005,
so
but they're making it in 2004.
And we've talked about this in the past. So I mean, I hate those movies.
Yeah.
I don't like to talk about them. They make me sick. I feel sick when I watch them, and it's not because of how poorly they are. It's actually, we've talked about this, the lighting.
Yeah.
I don't like the lighting, and it makes me feel like that's when you have a cold and you need to. It just makes me feel gross. But anyways, but also, I wasn't as into the DC shows, even the Batman animated series. I wasn't really into those things. I was more into the movies and Frank Miller.
Yeah.
Batman. I loved those. So that's why I really do like Batman. But I mean, if I was ever to pick a superhero, Batman is always going to be in my top 5. I love him.
Yeah.
So when it comes to Batman Begins, it reintroduced me back to Batman. And it reintroduced me as this is the beginning of Batman. This is the beginning of me being involved in Batman again. So Batman Begins is beginning a lot of new trends for me personally. So that's why I really drew into it. I remember when they announced the casting, and I was like, this sounds terrible,
dude.
And that was I was wrong. I was pretty wrong on that.
So this is my story of Batman Begins. I skip Batman Begins. I don't even know it's out. I don't even know it's a new movie. I know nothing about it circa 2005. And right around here is where my life changes by our mutual friend, Matt Murphy.
Right.
Me and him start becoming friends. He starts talking movies and stuff with me. We start talking Batman. He asks me about Mask of the Phantasm, and I'm like, dog, I own that on DVD and VHS still right now, like to this day. And then he's like, have you seen Batman Begins? And I was like, what the hell is Batman Begins, man? What is this? And he's like, oh my god, you've got to see it. Like, they brought Batman back. And I was like, dog, Batman's dead. Batman and Robin killed him. What are you talking about? And he's like, no. Watch it. He's back. And it is from that moment of getting into Batman Begins that then leads me back to finding Batman trades, which, if you watch our comic pod, I talk about Batman the Long Halloween. And it's from this that leads me to Batman the Long Halloween, leads me to Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, Dark Knight Strikes Again, Batman Year One. And, you know, then the floodgates are just open for me on trying to consume as much Batman as I possibly can. Over the next few years, then, we also get the relaunch of the New 52, with Scott Snyder taking over Batman, with Greg Capullo on art, and then you've got Eddie Barros and Kyle Higgins taking over Nightwing, giving him the red and black look instead of, like, the blue and black that he had been known for so long.
Love the blue and black.
I do love the blue and black, but, like, that...
The blue's my favorite color.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Batman Begins, didn't even know anything about it until Murphy was like, dude, no, Batman's back. And he was right. Christopher Nolan brought Batman back, and, like, think about it. If Batman Begins does not work, does Zack Snyder get his little DCEU? Do we get those? Because it's the success of Batman Begins.
Are you trying to say that you wished Batman Begins failed so we wouldn't get it?
No, I'm wondering.
It's a joke.
I'm wondering in the darkest timeline of the world and stuff, the darkest multiverse. Do we not get any? Does Batman Begins bomb? Does Christian Bale never suit up as Batman again? Does Christopher Nolan never come back? And do they all just, like, walk away? What happens? Anyhow, we've talked a lot about these 4 and 5. So, my number 3 pick. I am being a terrible person, and I am being a smuggler here. I am smuggling 2 movies. And the 2 movies I am smuggling are Tim Burton's 1989 Batman and Tim Burton's 1992 Batman Returns. Because if I am being honest, I think of Batman by their directors. I wholeheartedly think of Michael Keaton and Tim Burton as a pair, and I can't see those movies differently, like really apart from each other. And I want to talk about both of them. So, for me, I have Batman 89 and Tim Burton's Batman Returns. I have both of those. Do you have either one of those as your number 3?
So, yeah, I have Batman, but I also have Batman Returns as my number 2.
Oh, okay, okay. So we'll talk about Batman, and then we'll talk about
Batman Returns.
Yeah. And then I'll give my number 2 pick.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Batman, Michael Keaton, 1989. I am about 6 months old, and I am loving life.
I'm sure you know that you were loving
life.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. I know I was. No. No, but, like, this is the Batman we grew up on. Danny Elfman's score, like, Batman theme from this goes on into Batman the Animated Series, which is launching that fall later, after Batman Returns, because Batman Returns is a summer movie as well. And then that fall in, like, September or whatever, Batman the Animated Series launches. Then the following year you get Mask of the Phantasm, and the theme is all based off of Danny Elfman's, like, look, kind of feel and stuff that you get of that music and whatnot. And then, dude, then you get the Prince soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like, dude, come on. It's so good. There's so many weird things that shouldn't work in it, like Prince doing a soundtrack to Batman, but it's perfect. It's absolutely Gotham City, the look of it, that like gothic German expressionism that Burton's giving.
If you think about how the way Gotham looks in that movie,
Yeah.
totally makes sense that Prince made the soundtrack. Like,
You're
dude,
not wrong.
most of the Joker's henchmen, I'm pretty sure were backup dancers for Prince at one point in their life. Not even gonna lie.
I mean, there's a few musical numbers.
Like, there are, and like, some of those guys look fabulous, and Prince always looked the best.
Yeah. It is, it's great. It is a wild and wacky movie. It is, so, this might be a controversial take here, but Batman 89, Batman Returns, 1992, is the emo cousin to Batman 66. You want to get nuts?
That's so weird. I'm not even gonna jump into that one.
I'm telling you, the performances are big.
The reason that
Think about Jack Nicholson just like...
No, I know. Like, and like, that's one of the reasons that I do like, that's why it would be one of mine, it is my number 3, is because the performances by pretty much everybody in there is great.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, Jack Nicholson, of course, everyone says the original Joker, no one's ever better than the original. Like, that's up for debate, and that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Do I agree he's one of the best Jokers? Absolutely. Could he be the best? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But
he's somebody's best.
he's the first.
Yeah.
For movies.
Yeah. Cesar Romero,
Yeah,
technically, Batman,
yeah.
the movie, you know, they
So
they
how
did
about
do
this?
that.
He's the first for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he is our first generation
Yeah.
one because we get him and then we get Mark Hamill again in Batman the Animated Series. And as we are growing up,
yeah,
those are the Batman things that are around us in Joker, in the form of Joker, in our vicinity, what we can grab.
The way Jack Nicholson did him though was
great.
What I've always loved is how different all the Jokers have been, and with him being the way he did it, he's literally the original gangster.
Mm-hmm.
The original gangster that just went slightly crazy, is getting his revenge in any way that he wants to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I don't care anymore, and it's perfect. And it's perfect for how Gotham is set in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because like as we said, Joker evolves every single time we get something new. Anytime we get a new Batman, Joker evolves again, and you get Heath Ledger's Joker, which is vastly different from Jack Nicholson, and then you get Jared Leto's, which is vastly different from a good coherent thought, basically, because that was horrendous.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I hated everything. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We don't need to.
Yeah.
We don't need to unless it's on your
If we were
list.
talking DC movies, it's not making a list. Moving forward. And then Barry Keoghan's, which is also vastly different. But Mark Hamill's voice acting, that character is even vastly different.
And I mean, so for Mark Hamill at least, and we might be able to get to this later. I'll talk to you about this later. Mark Hamill, I love Mark Hamill as the Joker. I consider him and Kevin Conroy as my definitive Batman and Joker.
I just find it funny that when I found out that Mark Hamill did it, and this is years after he had done the animated series, and I was like, Luke Skywalker did that?
It's kind of funny. I honestly think of Mark Hamill more as Joker.
Oh yeah.
Than I do actually of Luke Skywalker, despite me loving Star Wars.
No, yeah.
Despite me loving the Star Wars.
I think of Mark Hamill more as Luke, only because my love for Star Wars. To be honest, I probably love Star Wars.
I think, but we've talked about this. I think if you watched more Batman the Animated Series, I've got a feeling you might be a little bit more on.
I would associate him more to that. So I do associate him very well with a lot of his voice acting.
He
great.
played that character for 25 years.
Yeah, I know.
And him and Kevin Conroy together before, of course, Kevin Conroy passed from cancer,
passing,
unfortunately. R.I.P. Batman. That
but
still hurts. Continue.
Back to Batman. Yeah. And it's not even just the Joker. I just like the way that like I said earlier, everybody that was casted I really liked, from Alfred especially to Batman himself. Bruce Wayne and Michael Keaton. The best thing about Michael Keaton being Batman is all you ever saw before that was that goofy, weird,
you saw him as either Mr. Mom or Beetlejuice.
Exactly. He was just this weird, crazy guy, and he was mainly seen as a comedic actor. I watched some of his stand-up
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I sent it to you, and it was hilarious. And he reads a bazooka gum wrapper, and just
That's
watch.
so great.
If you can find it, watch it. It's perfect, and it's like that's Batman.
Yeah.
And then and that's the point. Like you see all these goofy things about Michael Keaton, and I remember when he was officially announced as Batman, people were like, "Why him?" Like
Mr. Mom.
yeah, he's a comedic
What?
actor. Why? So like, why would you do that? And then he goes in there and
Crushes
does what he
it.
does.
Yeah, he crushes it.
He was a great Bruce Wayne, and he was a great Batman.
I mean, I stand by, like, it is the Batman 66 emo cousin, but that doesn't make me like it any less.
Oh no, I know that. I know that.
Like I stand by that take, but it definitely doesn't make me like it any less because it is still. I mean, again, I talked about it at the top of the video. I have the Batman 1989 replica belt, utility belt.
Yeah.
I did an unboxing for it. I've got the Batarang, and I've got the grapnel shooter. Like,
Yeah.
I love Batman. I love Michael Keaton as Batman. He was my first Batman. It is just that, like, I have been lucky enough to been alive enough to be into Batman enough that I've been exposed to a lot of different Batman stories. And so this story of Batman and this interpretation of Batman, while is great, while I have a lot of nostalgia and love for it, I can also look at it in a new light a little bit now because I have found things that just speak to other interests and story a little bit more when it comes to Batman and stuff. So that's where, for Burden, Batman, number 3, it lands there for me. Now, the reason why I also smuggle Batman and Batman Returns together is because those two movies, I don't think either one is better than the other personally. I think they are equal movies I think they are equal movies. One of my favorite one of the last things I'll say about Batman 89, because I have to talk about it, it is a family funny running joke of the Joker when he's at the board meeting and he comes back and he burns everybody alive, or he burns Anton. He's like, Anton's a little hot under the collar. One of my favorite lines ever. Had to say it. But so Batman Returns now. We get an expanded villain cast. You know, we get Christopher Walken in there. We get the lovely Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. My first love, like my first like real interpretation of Catwoman, like that I really had, because the only other Catwoman that I had at that point was the animated series, like the gray and black one. So like this was really cool to see. And then we've got one of the funniest people in the entire world as this absolutely gross, disgusting, grotesque penguin in Danny DeVito, man. And I gotta say, I just love this movie. Like, you also get Paul Rubens.
Yeah, but he's in a scene.
But you get him as Penguin's dad, which I love because, you know, it's Burden and him getting back together after Pee-wee's Big Adventure and stuff. But Paul Rubens shows up later in Gotham also playing Penguin's father in that, which is also really cool that they bring him back for that, and that he gets another like bite at that apple later in his life, being able to play that character again. So like I do love that, and I have to call it out because they eventually bring him back, which is cool and something that like I never would have thought. The only time I started thinking that bringing people back from original things were possible was when the Arrowverse on CW did their Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they legitimately brought back like Burt Ward. They couldn't bring back Adam West; he had already passed, unfortunately. R.I.P. Adam. But they brought back Burt Ward. They brought back the guy who played Knox from Batman and stuff. Like, you know, they brought back Brandon Routh to play like a Kingdom Come version of Superman again. Like, and
I still like those movies.
I like Brandon Routh as Superman in Superman Returns.
like that movie.
That movie's not great.
I like that movie. Anyways.
Yeah, we're not talking about Superman today. We are talking about Batman Returns right now. So
I'm gonna say something. Paul
Sure.
Rubens is not the reason that Batman Returns is my number 2. Okay, I'm just gonna say it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like,
Is it Michelle Pfeiffer?
No, she's not either. I do love her in the movie, and I actually love the costume design of Catwoman. But I love that they show her creating it. I love that mental breakdown scene. That it's so good. Like, she is a reason, yes, that it is number 2. She's not the main reason, but I thought she was great in the movie. But I really liked the way that she played Catwoman more than Selena Kyle. Like, I liked that. I liked Christopher Walken. He was a very good bad guy. He looked like a bad guy.
Yeah.
They did really good to make him like, yeah, I don't think you should trust that guy. Like, Penguin, of course, is phenomenal. And this is a good comparison. So how we were talking about Colin Farrell's and to Danny DeVito's now. Like, I talked about the eyes and I talked about the voice. You can't see it in the eyes, of course, because they put contacts in and stuff, but you can hear it in the voice. Like, you know that is Danny DeVito, even though it looks nothing like him at all.
He's so good.
He's so good at it, but like you can hear it in the voice. So, but it doesn't turn you off to his character at all. And I really liked that. I liked the circusiness of this. Like, so for me, Batman '89 doesn't remind me of a comic book movie so much. It kind of, to be honest, I would say it kind of reminds you a little bit more of the animated series. Because I mean, of course, make the movie and then the animated series starts.
Yeah.
So it does feel like you go straight into that. But for me, Batman Returns felt like a comic book movie. Like, they were trying to make it as almost if it was a comic book. Like, the square, whatever, the thumbnails and stuff like that. So I liked how I liked that visual. I loved that it was in like it was in Christmas time too. Like, with the snow, it made it seem. It definitely made it, and I know it kind of plays off of the Penguin having to keep cool and stuff like that, or being in that environment. But it made Gotham feel darker. It made Gotham feel colder. Like, and this is where you saw a lot of ruthlessness from a lot.
I love that Returns is also set around Christmas time.
Yeah, and it really works out well. And it also plays into the whole the whole Penguin story as well, like and Batman story as well. It's the time for family, like coming together and stuff like that. They're two very alone people.
Yeah, the orphans of Gotham.
Yeah, they're literally the orphans of Gotham. Yeah, and it's really good. And I liked, like I was saying earlier, I like the comic book style. I like the circusy style of this one because I think that the circus, like, even though it's the Joker and he's a clown, having those thugs really made more sense because he was the original gangster.
Yep.
Having the circus time, he's the freak.
Yeah.
He's a freak. He's a penguin and he eats fish like in front of people raw.
I love that he has his little penguin army. The penguin army of real penguins. And they're great.
And we talked about this in the past, but this is actually one of the thoughts that brought up let's do the top 5 and stuff. Not only just for Batman Day, but we had talked about this in the past, and I said, like, I do like when you take comic book movies and you do try to do a realistic spin on them, like Nolan did more. They try to give you a more realistic actual aspect. With Burton's Batman's, it is a live action.
It's totally fantastical for sure.
Yeah.
But, like, the idea of a dude living in the sewer with some penguins, a woman having a mental breakdown, pretending that she's a cat burglar,
it's not unheard of.
It's not. It sounds crazy, but like I'm sure there's things out there like that.
I'm sure people think they're cats and
absolutely.
Penguins.
But yeah, dude.
So we talked about that in the past with the little penguin army. And from how I feel of this movie, of like, oh, this is a lie, like Batman '89. This is like a live action, like realistic portrayal of Batman comics. And then when I go into Batman Returns, I sit there and I say, this is a live action comic book portrayal. Like, they're not trying to steer like, hey, this could, like, these are actual people. Like, these are actual scenarios that could actually happen. No, it's like we're gonna dive deep into the comic books and bring that, like, that fantasy into it. And when you see the penguins with the rockets on them and stuff, normally for me, in a live action movie, especially with superheroes, I'd be like, okay, that, like, I don't like that. That's stupid. Like, the remake of the Ghostbusters with the little Stay Puffs, didn't like it. Okay, that's kind of how I'm gonna describe it. Okay, don't like those sorts of things. but it made sense to me for Batman Returns.
Yeah.
On how crazy it was. I mean, literally, they're following a man that looks like a penguin that's eating raw fish. And that's literally the character, though. So it's like, I was okay. I was okay with that. And I did love the little army of penguins. I thought that was really fun. And that's what I think it was for me. Like, yes, it was a cold, dark movie, and they really portrayed that, but it was still a very fun movie. But it's so much darker, though.
It is. It is so much darker.
It's so weird to say that that's a fun movie.
It's a fun movie. It's a darker movie. It's a way more sexual movie. Question. Michelle Pfeiffer, did you see the behind the scenes of her using the whip, of her actually taking off the mannequin heads, dude?
Yes, I have seen that clip. Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah.
I haven't seen that in a long time, but
don't mess with it. Like, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. You don't want that. You don't want the smoke. It was insane. Like, it was truly like great because
I wasn't gonna ask for this.
Her accuracy was flawless, dude. Like, it was insane. So
I want to bring up a quick comment. So,
sure.
This is the first time I ever really saw Michelle Pfeiffer as like a villain or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's also probably one of the very first movies I ever saw her in. Because I didn't watch Scarface when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I remember years later when we were working at the video store, our friend Jeff was there one time, and it was Stardust. She was in, and she's on the cover, and I just want to throw out this quick little funny story. And our friend Jeff looks at it and goes, "Oh, we get it, Michelle Pfeiffer. You can play a bad guy. We knew in Batman Returns." And he put it down and walked away. And I have always wanted, I've never forgotten that moment with Jeff because of the fact that, like, I love him very much, but, like, for some reason, that was the best little, like, quick little burn to her that she'll never get.
Well, she'll hear it now, hopefully.
So funny. It's just
man,
like, we
so
know
funny.
you can play a bad guy, and just walked away. It was great. I just wanted to say that because speaking of Michelle Pfeiffer, I was like, that's one of my favorite stories that has Michelle Pfeiffer in it. So
that's so funny.
Not physically, but you know.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to say about Batman Returns?
Well, since Batman Returns is my number 2, basically, one of the things I always noticed about that movie was I did see a big transition with Michael Keaton's, not only Bruce Wayne, but his Batman. I thought it got much, much darker. He got much more angrier and violent, in my opinion, in this movie compared to the first one.
Yeah.
I liked that because
he's almost murking people. You're right.
Yeah, because like in this movie, as we said, it's the orphans of Gotham fighting each other basically, and it seems like that is finally bothering him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, it has been hurting him. You don't see it. You don't feel it that much in the first movie, but in the second movie, I felt it more. That I felt like he was angrier than anything now. He had already dealt with the Joker, and now he's got to deal with this.
Yeah.
And it's getting to a grand perspective of the Joker was here just to destroy things. You're here to get inside and then destroy from within. The Joker just wants to blow stuff up. I can deal with that, but you're trying to do the infrastructure, you know?
Yeah.
You're getting to the base of things to branch out and destroy everything. So it's just a much more, methodical plan and stuff like that. So you see how angry he gets and how vicious he can be. Yeah. And that's another reason why it stood out to me so much, because I truly felt it was a much more drastic change from Batman 89 to Batman Returns. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the last thing, but like that's always been one of my favorite. Like, I love Batman 89, but for some reason Batman Returns just really calls out to me, and I know I've described why I love it, but it just called out to me. I just liked it so much more, and it's probably the way it was shot. Mm-hmm. It's probably the time that it was set in, and also, I mean, Danny DeVito and Michael Keaton and it's Christopher Walken. Yeah. God. And I know I didn't talk much about Christopher Walken, but I love him so much that I normally would, but he's not a highlight for me in the movie. Yeah. But it's just it's Christopher Walken. Yeah. I love him. I thought he was great in that role. Like I said, you saw the way he talked, the way he spoke to people, and the way he looked. He was just like, that's not a guy you're gonna like. So, but yeah, Batman Returns has a special place in my heart, and I've always loved it.
Excellent. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. Batman Returns, they're two great movies. Watch them back to back. I know Batman 89 is back in theaters this weekend for Batman Day, so go check that out. My number 2 pick is... Christopher Nolan makes this list twice for me. It is The Dark Knight. Do you have...
That's my number 1.
That's your number 1. Okay. Then... Do you want me to give my number 1? And then we talk about The Dark Knight, and then we talk about my number 1? Or you want me to give my number 1, and then we talk about The Dark Knight?
Well, you give your number 1. We both have it on our list. What's your number 1?
My number 1 is Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, released December 25th, 1993.
Okay, so I don't have that on my list.
Okay.
Mainly because, as I stated earlier, wasn't super huge into the Batman animated series. For some reason, if it's, in all honesty, if it's not like Dragon Ball Z anime, like, I don't really watch it.
That's fair. I mean, hey, no. That's fair, because you're not doing the wrong thing of just, like, shitting all over what I like.
No.
You're like,
because I know that it's a good movie,
and that's okay.
So here's the thing, like, I am almost positive, I know I've seen it before, but it was a long time ago. I remember liking the story, but for some reason, like, I don't, and I think I said this to you before, I don't grasp onto, like, storylines, like, intricate storylines with animation because of the fact, like I said, I like Dragon Ball Z. It's really they're not really deep storylines. But, like, when you get really good, like, deep, intricate storylines and you put it with anime, I just, not anime, but animation, I just associate with it as cartoons. It's just cartoons for me, and cartoons are goofy and stuff, like Looney Tunes, and all that stuff. So, like, I guess that's why I never, like, kind of latched on to animation. But I know I did see the movie, and I do remember liking it, but like I said, it was a long, long time ago. So I think why is it your number 1?
So, Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, I saw that in theaters 31 years ago.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. I will be 36 this year in November. And my mother took me and probably my 2 8-month-old sisters to get us out of the house, and she knew I would sit still watching a Batman cartoon, and maybe hopefully the girls would sleep.
Did you get the story?
Yeah, because
okay. I probably wouldn't.
So let me tell you. Then, so, like, I absolutely have seen it in theaters. I saw it in theaters. Then my mother has told me this story. I don't have, like, a real memory of, like, sitting there being like, oh boy, Batman, yay, and, like, watching it in theaters. But my mom has told me multiple times that she has taken me to see that because I liked Batman Returns, and I loved Batman the Animated Series. It was, like, my favorite show in the world. And this, Mask of the Phantasm, is a spin-out movie from Batman the Animated Series.
Yes.
So it is written by, Bruce Timm, Paul Dini. It's directed by Alan Burnett, Alan Grant, and, the usual crew. Shirley Walker comes back to do all of the music, as she did throughout the entire show, outside of the Batman theme that they took from Danny Elfman from Batman 89. You get Kevin Conroy coming back as Batman. You get the new first-time introduced love interest of Andrea Beaumont, who's a great love interest of his. You get Batman in it's like a Batman in an early version. It's probably later than the Batman with Robert Pattinson. It's probably not like a year 2 Batman. But you get a Batman origin of it. And my favorite thing about it is that the Batman origin is his parents are already dead. So you don't have to see the pearls hit the...
Okay.
And all of that. You don't get that. You get him visiting the grave. Awesome. His parents are dead. Awesome. Show me visiting his. No, but for real, show me visiting him his grave. Show me showing.
I'm sorry, it was just the enthusiasm of you saying his parents are dead. Awesome. I was like, whoa, dude.
I don't need to see it again.
I know. No, I know where you're gonna get.
I don't need to see the pearls fall again.
Was the graveyard the same one from the Batman with Robert Pattinson? Was it as big?
Oh no, dude.
No. You could get out of there in a good amount of time.
Oh no. Statues fall on you before you get out. You die. You don't get out. You die.
Why?
Literally, that's what happens. Okay. Batman Mask of the Phantasm spins out of Batman the Animated Series. It's released in December of 93. I love this movie. It is an origin story of Batman. It tells his early years and then probably in his like normal modern day thing, and it bounces back and forth to like Batman Year One in this modern time. It gives you a really great new interesting to the first Batman episode where he's all dressed up in like in the black suit. He doesn't have his Batman like cape, cowl, and all that stuff yet. And he's just kind of like going in there, throwing punches and stuff, trying to stop the truck robbery or whatever.
Oh, he's doing Batman stuff.
Yeah, he's doing the early Batman stuff. And so like he stops that. It's Batman versus the mob. What happens is a person named Phantasm comes in, starts picking off mob bosses. And we come to find out a Joker origin story in this as well. They give us his version of it in there. It's pretty cool. It's actually the one Joker origin story that doesn't bother me.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, because they make it really simple. It's like this, bam, and it's like, oh, okay. All of that adds up. I don't really like. They don't go over the top. They don't dedicate an entire movie to it, or 2 movies now to it. Anyhow, and so Phantasm shows up, starts taking out old crime bosses. You learn about Joker's origin, and basically the movie ends in the climax of Batman v Joker v Phantasm for Gotham City, and it's
a triple threat match.
Ah, yeah, dude. They go to the Gotham.
Why don't I remember this?
They go to the Gotham World's Fair. That's all run down, and at one point, like you see him on a date with Andrea Beaumont in a flashback,
Gosh.
and they're going to the World's Fair, and you see like a first iteration look of like what his Batmobile will end up being in Batman the Animated Series.
I remember the flashback.
Yeah,
I don't remember the. It's been a long time.
So that
maybe it's longer than I
that
think
final
it's
showdown
been.
is at that World's Fair ground,
I think
but it's all
maybe
like
it's-
run down and stuff. It's not like up and like.
I remember the flashback scene
Mhm.
though. Like I can picture it, and I'm like, God, it must have been really long. It must be longer than I thought it's been.
Yeah, 31 years easily.
Well, no, I didn't mean I saw it 31 years ago. I mean, oh, man, it's been a while.
Yeah. So Mask of the Phantasm, and like I'll also like I remember this like too in high school. Murphy, when he asked me about it, I was like, yeah, man. Like I watched it. But at that point, for whatever reason, I know it had been at least. If we're talking 2006, it had been at least 6+ years since I had last watched that movie. So at that time, I had kind of forgotten about like how good it was. And when I relaunched my Batman love, like Murph and I, we ran through Batman the Animated Series. We ran through Mask of the Phantasm, and like Mask of the Phantasm still holds up. I highly recommend. If you've never watched it, watch it. It is one of the single greatest Batman movies you'll ever see. It is my favorite Batman movie that has ever been produced. I just have so much fun talking about it. It's zippy. It's 86 minutes.
It's quick.
I mean, like they don't
It's
make
not a bad watch.
They don't make them like that anymore. And like I'm not saying that I won't sit down and watch extended Lord of the Rings: Return of the King 4 hours of it, but like.
But if I can get that in 86 minutes, I'm not going to.
There's something to be said about it. There's something to be said
You
about
can get that in 86 minutes, man.
It's
going to be a good day.
It's going to be a good day. And so I highly recommend, like, Mark Hamill's voicing the Joker, Kevin Conroy, like, they are my Batman and Joker. Like, they when I read Batman comics, I hear I hear Kevin Conroy's voice. You know, I hear, like, when I read Joker, I hear Mark Hamill's voice of it. Like, it's just so ingrained to me. I just love it. I have, to also go with it, I have it on VHS. I have the full screen DVD. I have it on Blu-ray. I have a Blu-ray copy that came with the Blu-ray complete series of Batman the Animated Series. And then I also rebought it on 4K.
So you really like this movie?
I have literally bought it on every on every home video format that I have ever owned. I have rebought this movie.
Could you get it on Laserdisc?
I don't know.
But you would.
I would absolutely.
Yeah, you would.
At this point, like, if there's a Laserdisc and if there's an HD DVD.
I think Laserdisc was already phased out by the time.
No, Armageddon was produced on Laserdisc.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Armageddon is the last movie to be produced on Laserdisc.
Oh, that's hilarious.
In like 1998 or 9.
All right, so after this, we're gonna Google to see if we can find this on Laserdisc. That'd be hilarious.
Let me say in the comments of this, if you have a lead on a Laserdisc of this, because I don't know, I truly don't know if it was produced at the time.
And an actual Laserdisc, because we're gonna need it.
Yeah, because at the time VHS, like at that time VHS was the home video market.
That's it. I won't rewatch this until we get it on Laserdisc.
However, if it was put out on any other format other than a DVD, VHS, or Blu-ray or 4K, please let me know. I would actually just like to see what it looks like. If I'm being honest, I may or may not be interested in possibly purchasing it, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Calm down.
I know. I'm sorry. All right.
Dang.
Love Mask of the Phantasm.
Dang.
All right. So Mask of the Phantasm's my number 1.
So why is Dark Knight number 2 for you then?
Because Dark Knight is 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and it gets a little long in the teeth sometimes.
No, I don't agree.
It does.
I don't agree, and that's why it's my number 1.
No, if I'm being honest, it is. I find the rewatch. It's a tough one. Like,
wow, really? I could rewatch that. And
no,
not have a problem.
no. It's a tough one to choose between Mask of the Phantasm and The Dark Knight.
Oh, okay.
Again,
all right.
It is one of those things like where if I could, they're made by different filmmakers, so I wasn't going to smuggle them together as a number 1. I felt that was very dishonest to what we were trying to do here, despite me very much so smuggling burdens altogether.
No, but that makes sense though.
So one has to be 1 and 1 has to be 2.
Yeah.
And so for me, in the end, more recently, I have been more excited to rewatch Mask of the Phantasm than I have been to rewatch The Dark Knight.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
and in the end, because of that, that is why Mask of the Phantasm is truly my number 1. But if we're talking about the best Batman movies, in my opinion, these are the 2.
Yeah.
Mask of the Phantasm, Dark Knight, and based on... Like, there's some people who will never watch Mask of the Phantasm because they just don't believe, like, animation or cartoons is, like, a real art form, or you can't get, like, real emotions or feels and stuff for them.
Definitely a real art form.
I'm sorry, your opinion sucks on that.
So I guess I can understand where you're coming from on that one. So, and that could be sometimes my problem, too, is that I don't feel the emotion.
Yeah.
I can't feel
it. And like, to be fair, I rewatched Mask of the Phantasm, The Dark Knight, and Batman Begins in preparation for this pod, because I watched Burton's Batmans last summer, more recently when The Flash came out, or that might have been this year. No, that was last year when The Flash came out. So I watched them like both before and then after The Flash because I was like, what is going on here? But that's beside the point. So I watched them then, so I felt comfortable with that, and I've watched the Batman at least 2 or 3 times since it's been like released in 2022. So I felt comfortable talking about that. But I will always watch Mask of the Phantasm because it's 86 minutes long. Like it's a breeze. Dark Knight though is 2 hours and 20 minutes, so you got to sit down, strap in, boys. It might actually be 2:40 now that I think about it. It's a long one. Anyhow, I always but like to be fair. When I'm talking about The Dark Knight and where it kind of lags, the first opening 5 minutes, electrifying. Oh. That bank heist, electrifying. I love it. From that point, then, until when the body hits the mayor's glass, it drags a little bit. The next about 25 minutes, it drags a little bit for me. because there's a lot of build up. You're setting up the pieces and stuff, and I just kind of want to get through that a little bit more. I want to move through that a little bit more. I feel like it drags a little bit. We spend a little bit of time again with like Bruce and Rachel and him being star-crossed lovers, and it's not bad. It's not bad, but I wish we could speed that up a little bit, because once the body hits the mayor's window, we're cooking with gas, baby. Like, it is every 10 minutes something is happening, new scene, new action, and it is unreal. The onslaught that you get.
But that's why I think you need that period of drag.
Speak on it.
That's why I think you need that period of dragging before that body hits that window. Because right now you have no idea what can happen.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea what direction they're going to go. You know something's going to happen. You just don't know which direction it's going to go. And with having all that beforehand, all that like basically like dead air for you, only amplifies what happens, that onslaught you were talking about, to the nth degree, in my opinion. So, like, you're basically sitting there waiting for a conversational movie, basically. Like, this is all going to be conversations, a little bit of detective work, and then, bam, it's a murder. It's a slasher film.
Dude, I will never forget watching that for the first time. It, like, the body hitting the window. It got me.
It shocked
me. It shocked the shit out of me.
We all saw that.
We are okay.
Dude, we saw this all together at opening night. So I remember all of us sitting there.
Hold on. T.O. here, before you get rolling. The film burned up on that. Do you remember getting out of the theater for our midnight showing at like 4 o'clock in the morning?
I ran to the next theater.
Because they were running, they had 8 reels of film. We saw this in Crestwood, in a Crestwood movie theater. It has 18 screens. They had 4 reels of film going through all like 18 screens or something for that show, or something obnoxious, and it would burn up. Some of the film would just like burn away, and eventually they got it fixed and stuff.
They burned up. I ran to the other theater, sat down, watched the beginning of the movie, the whole heist and everything.
Nice,
basically, and then our friend Chris, who has been on the show, on the podcast, came in, grabbed me, and said, "It's on in our theater." And I said, "Okay." Ran back. Rewatched the beginning of it. and I came in and I said, "Guys, I saw the whole beginning. It's pretty awesome." And
that was so crazy.
We had a lot of fun, and I think that's a reason it's my number one, is not only because of, I do think it's a fantastic movie.
It is. It's really good.
Outside of minor little flaws, in my opinion, I think it's almost near perfect.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, when I say minor little flaws, like, let's divert to Lower Fifth. No, don't. Just go around. Just close street. Little plot hole there.
Well, because you're right, because when you're looking at it and they're like, divert down to Lower Fifth because the bus is on fire on the left-hand side, but the right-hand side seems to be
It's all clear. They could have just gone around, and
it's a great note, man. It's a great note.
So, like, and like, this is what I say about minor flaws. Like, especially the very first, the bank heist scene. That bus pulled out into a line of buses. Nobody noticed. No, not one witness was out. Like, the bus pulled out and joined that group of buses that was going. Not one. The police just showed up. You're gonna tell me? I understand. Nobody cares in Gotham City. That's the point. Like, it's a vile place. No one's just like, you want to just follow that, right there. There's literally a smoke trail. Just follow the smoke trail. I think he merges in between.
He does.
Buses.
He does. So
the bus driver didn't call that in.
So to be fair, I have always just assumed that it is more people from the Joker's crew that we see later.
They have kids' laughter.
Huh?
They have kids' laughter in that scene.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. There's kids.
I mean, that still doesn't mean that the Joker doesn't like pay off a driver or something.
I mean, very true. But it's not.
We shouldn't be making these assumptions with something like that.
So here's the thing. And like I say, like, I have clearly thought about flaws. That's what I do.
And at this point, we're talking about a movie that I saw 8 times in theaters in its initial run.
Yeah.
I
think
saw
got
it
about 5.
6 times in its opening weekend, and we're in the Chicagoland area, so the promo for this, they gave us a scavenger hunt. Me, Ed, our buddy Murph, our friends Chris, Dave Scheit, Lasso. We were all running around the city of Chicago, finding all these clues that led us to see the third trailer for The Dark Knight that gave us the full reveal of Harvey Dent Two-Face, of the burned look of Aaron Eckhart, and I think it was like the first official look at the full suited Joker. I think we might have just seen some face, heard some laughter at that point.
I think it was just you saw his silhouette walking and you heard the ha, ha,
yeah.
ha.
But this time we actually saw the the bat bike kind of thing in front of the LaSalle or Board of Trade building on LaSalle Street in Chicago.
We had people going downtown. Like we would be downtown and we would see filming for this.
Oh, it was so
at times.
great.
It was really cool. Like we would be sending each other pictures on our little flip phones and stuff. And
terrible.
Terrible. And it was like, hey, over here, this is they're shooting some Batman stuff. Like, my dad was still working for CPD then, and he was downtown, and he would say, "Oh yeah, they were filming here today," and I'd be like, "Why didn't you tell me?" Like I was gonna go down there. But so another reason, probably it's my number one. It is very close to home.
Yeah. They filmed in Chicago.
I love driving around. Yeah, downtown, and I remember one time after we saw the movie, probably for the 18th time, within the first year of its release.
Oh, yeah,
easily. I was driving downtown with, I believe, Murphy, and Murphy looked at me and said, "How can anybody say this isn't Gotham?" And we're driving right across the bridge from Navy Pier and stuff. You're looking on the Chicago River, and you're looking down there, and you're like, "Yeah, I understand."
On Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah, on Lakeshore. Yeah, and you're like,
there,
I understand it. Like
and
this
and you're looking to the left at the depending on if you're heading north.
Well, I was heading south, come back home. So we're looking to the
right.
west.
Yeah, to the west.
But either way, so it is close to home for us. So that's another reason it's close to my heart. But the main reason this is my number one was I was like Batman Begins. I was so taken back by it.
Yeah, it was mind-boggling how great it was.
It was beautifully done. I loved all of the casting, all of it. I mean, I could have done without Rachel's character, but I understood the meaning of her, especially.
I don't want Rachel gone. I like that. I like the sadistic game that the Joker plays there.
I do, but it's it was the love interest whole thing for me. I kind of wished it was maybe just his best friend. Maybe not somebody he was in love with, but maybe just his best friend. But
if they did a Thomas Elliot, introduce a Hush or something. Into
it's just I don't always need the love interest.
Yeah, that's fair. It could have been Alfred too.
Yeah, it could have been Alfred. Yeah, you could have used Alfred. So I like the movie so much. It just drew me in, and I remember the very first time we saw it, and I remember. I every time I watch that movie, I do the same thing. At the beginning of the movie, I get as close as possible to the screen. I mean, not, of course, in the movie theaters, but as close to the screen, and I try to pinpoint which window is going to burst out for that bank heist. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I've ever gotten it right. And I've seen the movie
a bunch.
Maybe I'm not kidding. I've maybe watched The Dark Knight close to 100 times.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I put it on to sit down and watch and analyze again, or just enjoy it, and I put it on for background. And it normally doesn't stay background because whatever I'm doing, I just stop and I zone in. So, but yeah, every time I watch that movie, I try to find that window that breaks out, and that right off the bat just tells you how involved I already am with this movie. From the very first time we watched it, I was involved, and every time I watch it, still I'm involved. I love Christian Bale. I love Michael Caine. I love Aaron Eckhart. Everybody. I had a little bit of problem with Aaron Eckhart's face as he was his Two-Face. I thought a little bit more skin.
I go so back and forth on it. I remember when we saw it in the trailer after running around the city, I was very disappointed, and I actually lowered my expectations for The Dark Knight because of that. And that might have possibly helped with how great it was, but I want to be clear. like the downgrades or like my knocks against the Dark Knight. These are like me being nitty gritty.
You're just being nitpicky.
Yeah, nitpicky.
And that's how I am with the movie too.
Because at this point, it is such a stellar film on such a high quality, such a high class film that you've watched it so much that all you can eventually do, because it's like it would be very boring of us being like, Dark Knight's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's just what we say about it. Like nobody wants to hear that. Like so
even if it's my favorite Batman movie,
yeah,
I still have problems with it.
Right.
Exactly. I still have problems with it.
So I stand by, like, you know, after the bank heist, it is a little slow there for like that next like 20 minutes or so until the body hits the window. After there though, we're cooking. And like because it's just hit after hit after hit. Maybe a little bit with the Russian dancers and stuff. That's a little something that I could probably neither here nor there with. But like I get that it leads us to China and the bacon at Lao International or Lao Holdings or whatever.
That's a good,
like
you bring that up at when they go to China and stuff like that. Like, so here's the other thing about that movie that I was so captivated by. There's always something new and interesting about that movie. Mm-hmm. So with what they're using, like the echolocation with the cell phones and stuff like that.
Insane.
That was super interesting, super like fascinating to me. And then the skyhook to escape, I had no idea what was going on. And then I saw that, and I was like, wow. Like, that's freaking brilliant. I love it.
Even him just doing the dive into the build, and like that whole sequence. Like him doing the gliding down into the building. And yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The little proximity mines, like the sticky
proxy mines, yeah, that was great.
That whole sequence, that blowing out the windows, diving in there, and then the escape is a thrilling sequence. Like it really is great. I mean, again, if we want to get like nitpicky, a great sequence that if we want to be nitpicky about it is when the truck gets overturned in front of, you know, the Board of Trade building, you know, Wayne Tower there,
right? Because
you still see the like gas canisters that they use to like billowing the smoke out from underneath it. But again, like I remember even seeing that in the theater, and I was like, oh yeah, the truck is still smoking because it just flipped over.
So the thing was with me is we could get very nitpicky, but at the same time, I'm just like I overlook it all. Like because it's just there's just something about that movie like that just really just drew me in. Like I could go on and on about this movie, and I mean the main thing that really just drew me in, of course, was the Joker.
Yeah,
was Heath Ledger. So.
We got to talk about it.
So Jimmy and I have had many conversations off screen and off mic about this specific Joker, and we have the conversation quite often. And it's because I personally was obsessed with how the Joker was written.
He's so good.
Costume design and how it was acted. And I know the costume design was basically just Heath Ledger's idea, and then the way he acted and portrayed the Joker was unbelievable, and it was very sad, Heath passing, because I think we would have gotten more of it. And plus, I mean, we just lost out on a phenomenal actor and beautiful talent. But I was obsessed with the Joker after this, and I'm not saying that I did a deep dive into Joker history and stuff. I was obsessed with this Joker. I loved this Joker so much because this was a very fresh take on a sadistic character. Yeah. And the reason that I loved it so much is something that I have expressed to you many times. He's crazy, and I don't need to know why. Yeah. The fact that he's just crazy and is dropping you hints is just part of his game. And I love everything about how that was written. He's just crazy. I don't need to know if he's damaged goods. If he was in the military, if he did have an abusive father, I don't need to know any of that. The fact that he's just crazy makes his character so much more interesting, complex, and intense. Yeah. That I don't need anything else. And it's another reason why I'm always get a sour taste in my mouth when I see another Joker. Yeah. Barry Keoghan, Jared Leto, and there's one more.
Jack Nicholson?
No. Don't worry about it. Either way. Oh,
Joaquin
Joaquin Phoenix! Joaquin Phoenix, duh. He's got 2 movies. It's why I get a sour taste, because I love Jack Nicholson's Joker. I really do. I think this is the better Joker. Yeah. And it's 2 completely different universes of interpretation here for me.
And that's why, again, usually I lean like Heath Ledger's performance is out of this world. There's like, it is, so to take a little line from Fight Club, it, as a single serving Joker, it is probably my favorite Joker performance. But if we're looking at people who just had repeatability of it, like Mark Hamill, no question. He's just had so much to be the gangster like Nicholson, to be the sadistic psychopath like Heath Ledger, and to be the weirdo like Joaquin. Like, Hamill's had that ability to do all of those throughout all of the stuff, because it's Batman the Animated Series, then it's Superman the Animated Series, then it's all of the DC movies for the next 20 years after that, where he shows up and he gets to play different characters and different things. Like, the beauty of the Killing Joke animated movie is that Conroy and Hamill come back to be Batman and Joker. I don't know. That stuff is iconic. I mean, Nicholson is amazing. He had one of the single greatest deals ever, getting a piece of every little bit of Joker, Jack Napier pie. But, like, Heath Ledger, man, I remember being upset that Heath Ledger was cast at first, because I had only known him as A Knight's Tale, which I like, and 10 Things I Hate About You, which I also like. I only really knew him as, like, that pre-teeny, heartthrobby kind of character guy. It would be shortly thereafter me finding out that he's cast, and I had seen Brokeback Mountain, and he gives a really good performance in that, but like, that movie didn't speak to me talk to me the way that it spoke to other people about it. Like, it hasn't stayed in my lexicon. I haven't rewatched that movie probably since it was released. It just didn't stay with me. And so the movie that I watched that before The Dark Knight, that made me be like, oh, Ledger's onto something. This could be really good. Is his movie Candy?
Oh, right.
It's that small indie movie from Australia that he did.
I know what you're talking about.
And like, that performance, I was like, whoa. I was like, all right.
I never questioned the casting.
Oh, I did.
I was actually very interested in it because, again, you're right. I didn't know Heath Ledger from too much.
Yeah.
When I found out they casted Christian Bale for Batman Begins, I was like, I don't understand that. Why? Like, and again, it's like, I didn't know too much about Christian Bale. Yeah. Like, I mean, I knew he was an actor. I knew him from Newsies.
Yeah, right.
He loves Santa Fe. He's thinking about it. Anyways, I love it. I love Newsies. So, anyways, but like, I never questioned Heath Ledger. Like I said, I was really interested in it, actually. Didn't know too much about him. I love 10 Things I Hate About You. I love A Knight's Tale. And that's what I really knew him from. But I just, for some reason, I was like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this seems interesting. I'm like, and I, of course, imagined just like, oh, it's just going to be a reimagining of the Joker, Jack Nicholson's Joker. I'm like, he'll probably look the same. Maybe he'll just do it slightly different acting and stuff like that. So all of my expectations of the Joker were completely shattered after the first still image that they released of him in the makeup, and I was like, that looks nothing like Jack Nicholson.
Yeah,
that's not what I had pictured at all.
It was such a wonderful, like, breath of fresh air of like, whoa, they're going for something. They're doing something. So, like, they're showing us something different here.
So once I saw that, like I said, I was intrigued, I was interested by it. But once I saw that image, I said to myself, it wasn't even the image, I'm sorry. I saw the image, I was like, oh, that's really different. When I found out that it was Heath Ledger that made that choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I remember talking about it, like, after we had saw it, And I think it might have been Chris even said it was like, so it was Heath Ledger that did that. They let him like just mess around and see how he was feeling with it, and he came out like that. And that was the picture that he sent to them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, finding out that Heath Ledger did that was his choice, that was his image, that was it for me. I was on board. I was like, I cannot wait to see how this version is played out by Heath Ledger. If that's what he's given us with the makeup. And then when you see it all come together on the screen, it was
magic. And he showed us a magic trick too in it.
That blew me away too. And I remember the entire theater being like, "Oh!" Like the whole, oh my! Like no,
whoa!
Nobody saw that coming.
Nope.
Nobody really knew what was going to happen.
And it was at that moment, like the heist was one thing.
His introduction in the heist was great.
It's great. I'm not knocking.
Yeah, no, I know.
But it's done enough. But you don't see the sadistic side that he really has.
That's the Joker's introduction. Is the pencil trick.
Yeah. That is it. Because that is the gangster sadistic guy. What we saw at the beginning was the laughable clown.
Yeah.
Because think about how silly he was in all of it, just like trying to count the gunshot shells, being like, oh no, I'm supposed to kill the bus driver as he slowly
when he kills the bus driver, he just
and just walks around.
And then just walks around, grabs his stuff. Bag. Yeah, it's I don't care. Like, yeah, so like you have two introductions technically to him, but that's the real introduction.
And then he gives you two different origin stories. Like it's beautiful on how because there's also the story that like Christopher Nolan handed Heath Ledger the Killing Joke and was like, this is the Joker. This is who it is, and it's beautiful because they incorporate two of the three stories in the Killing Joke as the Joker's telling his origin, like, you want to know how I got these scars? And all of that, and again, The Dark Knight is a
but what they did was
10 out of 10 great flick.
But what they did to when they were bringing him into scenes and stuff like that was just brilliant. Like, for instance, coming off the elevator at the Bruce Wayne fundraiser for Harvey Dent. In knowing that that's Michael Caine's actual reaction of fear. He had never seen Heath in the costume yet.
Yeah.
And seeing that makeup, like, him backing away, getting scared, is literally
real.
That's the first time he ever saw him. It's like the Goonies seeing the ship for the first time.
Yep.
Really, what Heath did with that role and the way that it was written and, how they adapted it, I just thought that's where I get to the point where when I say that this movie was near perfect, it's that. I think everything about the Joker is perfect in that movie. And I've always seen myself, if I were ever to write a story or anything, I think of myself as a good guy. I would be the good guy. I like to write about good guys. That Joker made me want to be a villain. It made me want to write about villains. It made me want to think from a villain's perspective.
Yeah.
And that was possibly the best version of a villain I've ever seen in my life. And I will still say to this day, I think that is the best Joker. And I actually think that might have been the best villain I've ever seen. And this is coming from, and I know I've told you, I still think the Joker is the greatest villain of all time.
Two-Face is my favorite.
Yeah. So my favorite villain of all time I would say is the Joker. So to see the way that it was, and I mean, love Jack Nicholson. Yeah. Thought that was great. I will always say that, the original's, that argument, the original is always the best. Sure, why not? But have you seen Heath Ledger? Because he scares you. He makes you laugh during the movie. He shocks you. He makes you extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
He does everything that the Joker's supposed to do.
He really does. And he's just such a presence. He's like the shark in Jaws because he's not in every scene, but when he's there, he just demands your attention. You gotta be watching what this guy is doing. I do gotta say, like I said, when we did the running around, and I first saw it, I'm going to switch things over to Harvey Dent, Aaron Eckhart a little bit here. Because, I don't know if we can celebrate Heath Ledger anymore of, the Joker than, how great of a performance he gave. But Aaron Eckhart, Two-Face, I go back and forth if I like it or if I don't. Catch me on the right day and I'll love it and I think it's great. Catch me on a day like today and I'm like, maybe a second pass was needed. Because you even mentioned it before, maybe a little bit more skin should have been on there.
My
still,
biggest
like,
issue
but,
is that I, of course, nitpicky, read, like, you know, actual physician said that much exposed skin would have been infected and he would have been dead within a day or two. And I'm like, well, maybe he didn't do all this in a day or two. Maybe he only did it in a couple hours. No, but that was my problem. Yeah, I would have liked a little bit more of.
Well, and to be fair, in the movie proper, like Harvey Dent is in the hospital for a little bit. Cause
no, I know that. I know.
Like, for
and that's what I'm
time.
getting at with the exposed skin and stuff like that, with him ripping it off and like having it, like you could see bone, like infection is like, okay, this is me getting nitpicky again. But anyways, I would have liked a little bit more skin more than like missing, like seeing inside of his face and stuff. Just because, and I guess this is kind of going back to like Two-Face from before, and I'm not even talking about Joel Schumacher. I'm talking about the animated series.
So good, so iconic. Big
so what I do remember the most from the animated series is the Two-Face episodes. I did like Two-Face a lot in that, and I would have liked that more of a mutated face more than a really like scorched like. Mutilated face.
I mean, I guess that's the thing is that historically, you know, in the comics and everything, it is acid. So there's got to be like that big, deterioration and like burning gone. It's interesting though because the Dark Knight, for the most part, yeah, his face is covered in oil, but I almost feel like way more is burned off than probably should have. Maybe
that's what I agree with you. I definitely agree with you there. I thought it was a little too much.
But, okay, again, we're nitpicking here. This is, for me, that was always something that I did truly, bump up on, was, look, it wasn't necessarily, the super overexposure. There was just something about the look that I was just
like... It didn't take away from Aaron Eckhart's performance.
No, because he is so good as Harvey Dent and as Two-Face. And that switch.
His switch of,
Oh, it's a performance. I mean, this whole movie is filled with great performances. The worst thing about anyone's performance is Bale's Batman voice, the growl that he does, is the worst thing. But Bale's rest of his Batman is good.
Awesome.
His Bruce Wayne is amazing.
Awesome.
I mean, Heath Ledger is by far the best.
The growl's the best.
He definitely shows up the best. But okay. So, do you got anything else that you want to talk about for The Dark Knight before we wrap up here?
No, actually, I think I got everything out. Like I said, I mean, that movie just captivates me, and it is because of Heath Ledger. And sad that what happened because we could not. Like I said, we could have gotten more, but you lost a great talent, and it just bums you out to think about those things. But I loved Dark Knight, and I loved talking about Batman. Not the biggest DC guy, but if I were to pick it, if I were to pick anybody out of DC, it's Batman.
Right.
And then it would be Superman because I really got into Superman.
Oh man, Superman just doesn't do it. We can have a discussion about that.
It just doesn't do it for me, man.
It really doesn't. The only Superman story that I really like, I like Kingdom Come, but that's like a Justice League kind of story. It's like a whole bunch more than just Superman. But it's Superman Red Sun is by far my favorite.
Talking about this actually makes me want to go find my Frank Miller Batman comics and reread them.
Do it. It's good
and then
stuff.
Probably watch Mask of the Phantasm.
Rename your list from number 5 to number 1.
So my number 5 was Batman it was 2022, correct?
Yep.
And then it was Batman Begins with Christian Bale, Batman 1989 with Michael Keaton, directed by Tim Burton, Batman Returns, directed by Tim Burton, which was, you said 1982?
92.
92. And then Dark Knight, which was directed by Christopher Nolan, who also did Batman Begins.
So, my number 5, Batman Begins, directed by Christopher Nolan, story and written by Jonathan, David S. Goyer, Christopher Nolan. My number 4 was The Batman, directed and written by Matt Reeves from 2022, featuring Robert Pattinson donning the cape and cowl. My number 3 was The Smuggle of the Burdenverse. I put both Batman and Batman Returns in my number 3 slot. I don't care what you say. That's what I picked, and I smuggled them, and it worked.
He cheated. He put 6 on.
I sure did.
Yeah.
And so my number 2 slot is The Dark Knight. Again, directed by Christopher Nolan, written by Jonathan, David S. Goyer, and Chris. And my number 1 Batman pick is Mask of the Phantasm. Released in December 25th, 1993. It is done by the entire Batman the Animated Series crew, like Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, Alan Burnett, Alan Grant, Eric Ronadowski, all of them, all of those usual suspects are there. I am Jimmy with the Triple C Collective.
I'm Ed.
We want to thank you all for joining us here for our top 5 Batman movies on Batman Day 2024. Like and subscribe to our video and to our channel. We hope you all stay safe. And as always, I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.